It all started on a sticky Wednesday afternoon when I decided to park my RV in my own driveway. Nothing wild, just a quick pit stop to unload some gear after a weekend camping trip. Within 30 minutes of the engine cooling, my doorbell started losing its mind. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. I didn't even need to check the peephole. It was her, Karen McAllister, president for life of the Hawthorne Meadows HOA, defender of the cul-de-sac, slayer of joy. I opened the door to find her standing there with a clipboard, a cell phone, and a face so twisted with rage that it looked like she'd been sucking lemons since breakfast. "You can't park that. That thing here," she screeched, jabbing the clipboard toward my RV like it was an infectious disease. "Good afternoon to you too, Karen," I said, sipping my lemonade just to make her angrier. "It's my driveway." "Doesn't matter," she snapped. Section 4, subsection B of the Hawthorne Meadows Covenant clearly states that no unsightly recreational vehicles may be parked anywhere visible for longer than 14 minutes. I blinked. 14 minutes? 14, she barked, her voice cracking. Apparently, Karen had been lurking behind her curtains with a stopwatch. Classic. "Relax," I said. "I'm unloading. It'll be gone by tonight." But Karen wasn't interested in rational conversations. She whipped out her phone and started snapping pictures of the RV like she was paparazzi and my camper was Brad Pitt. "You're already in violation. I'm documenting everything. You'll be fined, and if the RV isn't removed immediately, the HOA will take possession of the vehicle." I snorted lemonade through my nose. "Take possession? It's not an abandoned shopping cart, Karen." She smirked. "Don't worry. We have procedures for these situations." Before I could say anything else, she spun around and stormed off, nearly tripping over a decorative garden gnome. I figured that was the end of it. I mean, what was she going to do? Physically drag the RV away herself? Spoiler, she was going to try something even dumber. What I didn't know was that while Karen was busy assembling her HOA posse, the RV was already occupied by someone very unexpected. And they weren't in the mood for HOA drama. By Friday morning, things had escalated from ridiculous to full-blown circus. I woke up to the sound of loud voices outside. Peeking through the blinds, I nearly spilled my coffee. Karen had gathered what could only be described as the HOA task force, about 7 people in matching polos, clipboards in hand, faces full of self-righteous rage. One even brought a measuring tape like they were surveying a crime scene. At the front of the group stood Karen herself, hands on hips, sunglasses perched dramatically on her nose, barking orders like a general preparing to storm the beaches of Normandy. "All right, team," she announced. "We have photographic evidence. The vehicle has not moved. Per the emergency clauses of the Hawthorne Meadows covenants, we are authorized to initiate property seizure protocol." I choked on my coffee. Property seizure protocol? Was that even a real thing? This wasn't a military base. It was a sleepy cul-de-sac. Apparently, Karen had interpreted the HOA manual the same way a pirate interprets maritime law, as a suggestion. One of the task force members, Greg, the guy who once called the fire department over a barbecue grill, timidly raised a hand. Karen, shouldn't we call a tow truck or, notify somebody official?" Karen waved him off. "Already taken care of. I called an expedited towing service. They'll be here any minute. Once it's on the flatbed, possession is 9/10 of the law." I had to admire her confidence. Completely wrong, but confident. About 10 minutes later, the tow truck rolled up. Big rig. Rusty. The driver climbed out, took one look at the RV, then glanced nervously at the mob of suburban vigilantes waving clipboards. "You sure about this?" he asked, scratching his beard. "Looks occupied." Karen scoffed. "Nonsense. It's abandoned. Just hook it up and tow it. We have authorization." The tow truck guy shrugged, clearly paid by the hour. and backed up toward my RV. Karen strutted forward like a conquering queen, clipboard raised triumphantly. And that's when the side door of the RV exploded open. Out spilled four heavily armed, body-armored figures in full tactical gear. Helmets, visors, the whole deal. I mean, these dudes looked like they walked straight out of a Tom Clancy novel. Guns down, hands in the air, one of them bellowed. Karen screamed so loud that birds fled the trees. Greg dropped his measuring tape and bolted behind a bush. One of the clipboard ladies fainted straight onto the grass. The tow truck guy just froze, hands above his head, eyes the size of dinner plates. From my porch, I calmly sipped my coffee and tried not to laugh myself into an asthma attack. Turns out, my cousin's SWAT team had been using my RV as a staging area all week for a high-risk operation across town. Karen, meanwhile, was standing frozen in place, her sunglasses hanging crooked off one ear, still clutching her clipboard like it could shield her from reality. "This is a secure law enforcement vehicle," one of the SWAT guys barked. "Who authorized unauthorized access?" All heads turned to Karen. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. All that came out was a tiny, pathetic squeak. And somehow, it was about to get even better. At that moment, time seemed to slow down. The SWAT guys, bless their tactical little hearts, were not in the mood for suburban nonsense. They moved fast, securing the perimeter, setting up cones, radios crackling with real-time chatter. Meanwhile, Karen stood frozen like a malfunctioning Roomba, her clipboard trembling in her death grip. Ma'am," the SWAT team leader said, walking up to her with that calm, deadly serious voice that made my hair stand on end. "Can you explain what you're doing here? Why were you attempting to interfere with a federal operation?" Karen blinked. HOA regulations." The SWAT guy stared at her like she had just tried to explain quantum physics using sock puppets. "You're interfering with an active tactical deployment," he said slowly, like he was talking to a particularly stupid child. "Do you understand the legal consequences?" Karen, incredibly, found her voice and, predictably, made everything worse. "I am the president of the Hawthorne Meadows HOA," she shrieked, stamping her foot so hard her orthopedic sandal nearly flew off. "I have jurisdiction." There was a pause. A long, painful pause. One of the SWAT guys actually snorted. Another pretended to cough into his hand to hide his laugh. The team leader didn't blink. "Ma'am, this is a federal matter. The Homeowners Association has zero authority here." Karen's eye twitched. "But the covenants," she began. "Ma'am," he cut in, "if you say the word covenants one more time, I am legally obligated to detain you for obstruction." You could practically hear Karen's brain short-circuit. She turned to the task force for support, but the moment she spun around, she realized her army had vanished. Greg was still peeking out from behind a shrub. The lady who fainted was pretending to be unconscious to avoid responsibility. Even the tow truck driver had climbed back into his rig and locked the doors. Karen was alone. Alone, clipboard-waving warriors standing against reality. I casually strolled down my front walkway, coffee in hand, just to enjoy the show up close. "Hey, Karen," I said cheerfully. "Still think you're going to seize my RV?" Her head whipped toward me, her face now an impressive shade of purple. You, she sputtered, words failing her. "This isn't over." "Actually," I said, pointing to the SWAT team leader, "I think it kinda is." The SWAT guy gave a little nod. Another officer gently took the clipboard from Karen's trembling hands, flipping through her papers like they were evidence from a crime scene. "You have no authorization," the team leader repeated firmly. "You are now ordered to leave the area immediately or face charges." Karen opened her mouth again, probably to say something stunningly stupid, but one of the SWAT guys lightly rested a hand on his holster. She wisely closed her mouth. With an angry huff, she turned on her heel, tripped again over the same garden gnome, and stomped off down the street, muttering darkly about lawsuits and emergency HOA meetings. The SWAT guys relaxed slightly, chuckling under their breath. One of them clapped me on the shoulder. Sorry about that. Bro didn't think the locals would try to commandeer our mobile HQ. No worries, I said, grinning. Honestly, it's the most fun I've had all month. But little did I know, Karen wasn't quite done embarrassing herself yet. She was about to attempt her biggest stunt yet, one that would make national headlines. And this time, everyone would see it. You would think that after being publicly humiliated by a full SWAT team, most people would quietly go home, bake cookies, and reevaluate their life choices. But Karen? Karen doubled down. That very night, the neighborhood's Facebook page exploded. Karen had posted a long, rambling, all-caps manifesto about how she was wrongly attacked by a rogue military faction and that Hawthorne Meadows residents deserved to know the truth. There were rants about deep state conspiracies, accusations that I was harboring criminals, and several photos of my RV half blurry, half with her finger accidentally in the frame. To her credit, it got a lot of attention. Mostly people laughing at her. My phone buzzed nonstop as neighbors, coworkers, and even distant cousins sent me screenshots, crying laughing emojis filling my inbox. Apparently, the post was so bonkers it went viral. By noon the next day, local news vans were creeping into the cul-de-sac. Reporters were setting up cameras. A few teenagers were live streaming from their skateboards. The neighborhood had officially become a meme. I sat on my porch, sipping a fresh cup of coffee, waving cheerfully at every news crew that drove past. Meanwhile, Karen, wearing a fresh HOA president sash like she was running for Queen of Crazy Town, was loving the attention. At a makeshift podium, she started giving an impromptu press conference. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, she shouted into a megaphone, despite standing only 5 feet from the first reporter. We are here to discuss a major threat to our community. We are under siege. The reporters stared at her, trying to decide if this was a prank. An illegal operation has taken root in our neighborhood, Karen ranted, veins bulging in her forehead. I tried to stop it using legal means, but was met with violence. A hand shot up. It was a young reporter with a mischievous glint in his eye. Ma'am? Are you referring to the licensed SWAT team staging a federally sanctioned operation? Karen faltered. That's what they want you to believe. Another reporter asked, did you attempt to have a SWAT vehicle towed? Karen hesitated, realizing she was digging her own grave. It was improperly parked. The reporters could barely keep it together. Cameras flashed. Teenagers giggled in the background. Someone even yelled, "Free the RV." The situation reached critical mass when a black SUV pulled into the cul-de-sac, sirens blipping once. Out stepped a man in a sharp suit, sunglasses, earpiece, the works. The entire street fell silent. He walked calmly through the crowd, flashed a badge, and said, "Special Agent Monroe, FBI." Karen's mouth dropped open so wide I thought her jaw might unhinge like a snake's. Who is the homeowner associated with the RV? Agent Monroe asked, scanning the crowd. I raised my hand, casual as a Sunday barbecue. Agent Monroe nodded. You're good. Thank you for your cooperation. Then he turned to Karen. And you are? Karen tried to gather her crumbling dignity. I am the president of the Hawthorne Meadows HOA. And this man, she pointed at me dramatically, is harboring illegal. Ma'am, Monroe cut her off smoothly. We're here for you. The crowd gasped. Karen blinked. And me. You posted classified tactical deployment photos to public social media, Monroe said, voice clipped and cold. You compromised a federal operation. Karen turned pale. You're under investigation for obstruction of justice and unlawful dissemination of sensitive information. She started stammering, waving her arms, but it was no use. In front of half the neighborhood, in 3 live news feeds, the FBI agent read Karen her rights. Someone in the crowd actually started slow clapping. Greg, still hiding behind the bush, fist pumped the air. Even the ice cream truck passing by paused to honk in celebration. I leaned back against my porch railing, savoring the moment. And somehow, it still wasn't over. Karen wasn't just facing criminal charges. She was about to get a special bonus surprise she never saw coming. Karen stood there, frozen, as Agent Monroe finished reading her rights. But just as she opened her mouth to Karen her way out of the situation, another car rolled onto the street, a sleek black sedan with tinted windows. Everyone turned to stare. Out popped a sharply dressed woman with a clipboard and a lot of very official-looking papers. She marched straight toward Karen with the precision of a guided missile. "Ma'am," she said curtly, "I'm with the county registrar's office. We've received multiple complaints regarding your status as HOA president." Karen blinked. "What?" The woman adjusted her glasses. "Your HOA is not properly registered. Your election was never certified. You've been operating without legal authority for 3 years." The crowd exploded. Even the reporters couldn't believe it. "You mean," a news anchor gasped, trying not to laugh, "she was never really HOA president?" The county officer nodded solemnly. "Correct. As of today, Hawthorne Meadows Homeowners Association is dissolved pending legal review." It was like watching a Jenga tower collapse in slow motion. Karen, still half handcuffed, went ballistic. "You can't do this," she shrieked. "I am the president. I am the law." "No, ma'am," Agent Monroe said dryly. "You're just a citizen under arrest." He one of the teenagers in the background playing a sad trombone sound effect from their phone. I nearly choked on my coffee from laughing. But wait, it got even better. Remember the RV she tried to claim? The one she said was an eyesore and violated HOA standards? Turns out, that RV? It wasn't just a mobile HQ for the SWAT team. It was officially federally owned property. And by trying to tow it, interfere with it, and threaten agents inside it, Karen had committed a whole grocery list of crimes. Obstruction. Tampering with federal property. Attempted grand theft. As they loaded Karen into the back of a police SUV, still ranting about her HOA, a neighbor leaned over to me and whispered, "Is it bad that I'm gonna miss the free entertainment?" I just grinned. "Don't worry," I said. "Court hearings are public. We can bring popcorn." The reporters, still filming, started listing all the charges live on the evening news. And that Facebook page Karen loved so much? It was now filled with memes. Glorious, savage memes. One had a picture of her in handcuffs with the caption, "HOA Karen, President of Nothing." Another showed the SWAT team surrounding the RV with the words, "Neighborhood watch level, boss fight." Even the SWAT guys got in on the joke. They sent me a patch from their unit, signed by the team, with a note that read, "Thanks for the assist, neighbor. Best day ever." As for Hawthorne Meadows, without Karen terrorizing everyone, it actually turned into a pretty chill place to live. Block parties returned. People put up decorations without fear of $100 fines. Kids chalked the sidewalks without being screamed at. And my RV? It stayed right there in my driveway, proudly waving a tiny flag from its roof, a little victory symbol that reminded all of us. Sometimes, the biggest threats aren't outside forces. They're nosy HOA Karens who don't know when to quit. And when karma finally comes, it brings the SWAT team with it.